we saw this study come out from MIT. The discovery is not so shocking, but I guess this was inevitable, and I think it's important we go through this. This MIT study, it's finding that AI usage can cause brain rot, and there's a lot of different news outlets that are digging into this, showing the study, a different analysis, and everybody's coming to the same conclusion here. So let's just take this one from the conversation. So they're looking at ChatGPT because that's the one I think that first kind of took control of people's, like, the idea that you had this entity that was going to do stuff for you. It was I think ChatGPT was the first one that said, hey, get on board with us with this program, and you don't have to do as much work. You're going to be faster, you're more efficient. Well, based on the study at MIT, they're saying it can rot your brain. And the truth is actually a little more complicated. Since ChatGPT appeared almost 3 years ago, the impact of AI technologies on learning has been widely debated. Are they handy tools for personalized education or gateways to academic dishonesty? Most importantly, there's been concern that using AI will lead to a widespread dumbing down or decline in the ability to think critically. If students use AI tools too early, the argument goes they may not develop basic skills for critical thinking and problem solving. As you guys know, these are very important skills we need to have to do what we're doing here. So that's a very, very troubling to hear. Is that really the case? Well, according to a recent study by scientists from MIT, it appears so. Using ChatGPT to help write essays, the researchers say, can lead to cognitive debt and a likely decrease in learning skills. So what did the study find? Well, over the course of 4 months, the team asked 54 adults to write a series of 3 essays using AI, the ChatGPT, a search engine, or their own brains. So you had 2 groups, the chat group and the brain-only group. The team measured cognitive engagement by examining electrical activity in the brain and through linguistic analysis of the essays. The cognitive engagement of those who used AI was significantly lower than the other 2 groups. So this group also had a harder time recalling quotes from their essay, of course. How are you going to recall if you didn't put it together? And felt a lower sense of ownership over them. And here's where it gets really scary. Interestingly, participants switched roles for a final 4th essay. So they reversed the spots. The AI to brain group performed worse and had engagement that was only slightly better than the other groups during their first session, far below the engagement of the brain-only group in their 3rd session. The authors claim this demonstrates how prolonged use of AI led to participants accumulating cognitive debt. When they finally had the opportunity to use their brains, they were unable to replicate the engagement or perform as well as the other groups who didn't use the AI tool. Jay, this is we kind of expected this, but did you think it'd be this bad as far as their breakdown here that we're reading about?
No, I didn't realize it impacted people that quickly. But I guess I'm not surprised, because even if you go back to something as simple as remembering phone numbers, we lost that skill. Like after in a period of, I guess, maybe 5-10 years. It couldn't have been longer than that since phone books came out, that people just stopped remembering numbers. So I'm sorry, since we could store our contacts on our cell phones. But yeah, it's scary, especially given the fact that Trump just passed a national law, or he wants to pass a national law on the big beautiful bill, preventing any form of regulation of AI, and it's not an issue, I think, that people are talking about enough. And if the AI conversation focuses only on the possible benefits of it, and we don't talk about these potential drawbacks, then it's possible, and it unfortunately seems there's a growing chance that the good done by AI will not outweigh the bad that could come from it. Because if we don't have cognitive thinking skills to put together the fact that, you know, in elementary school, I was told about a concept called natural immunity. And this concept means that if you catch a disease, you're protected from it and you're less likely to get sick, you know, like if you've already caught the disease. And now someone is telling me that this thing I learned about when I was a child no longer exists. If I can't put those two things together because I lack cognitive function, then I'm more likely not to question like anything that's presented to me, you know, as a solution to make up for this natural immunity which no longer exists. So, you know, the implications are, you know, are potentially devastating. And, you know, this is why we need to talk about, you know, the education system and the fact that there's such a huge difference in funding depending on what district you go to. Because if we start hearing the line that AI is going to save us costs on teaching, and, you know, we have to send all our money to this war in Israel, so we can't afford to pay teachers, but don't worry, this AI is going to do it. That's going to mean the schools in poor districts are going to have AI bots to teach them, while physical schools, while schools in rich districts get physical teachers, you know, to stand there and engage with them and talk with them. So, you know, it's a tool that can be beneficial, but if we're not talking about how to use this tool and the potential negative impacts of it, then I can see it honestly being devastating. Because, you know, I wouldn't like want to go pick up a map like if I was going on vacation. Like when I go on vacation, I use my GPS because I can figure it out in real time. But then that means I don't really know the country, you know, and know the streets the way I would if I was learning it on a map. And, you know, that could happen for logic and reasoning. Like if we aren't talking about the possible consequences of AI, because it's just a cheat code of getting to the end goal. We have a question and we're no longer figuring out the logical steps on how to answer this question. We're just going to AI and we're not even questioning, you know, what's coming out of it, at least some people. And, you know, the amount of things it can do is actually crazy because, you know, a few months back, I had gotten into an argument you know, like with my girlfriend, and I apologized to her. And then after the argument, I said, you know what? Let me go punch this situation like into AI and see what AI would have me do, like in this situation after I'd already did it. And AI told me the exact same thing, like that I actually did.
Yeah. So this is incredibly concerning to me too, Jay. And I think about the next study that will be being done. This is just ChatGPT. The next study is going to be on the new AI technology that Google just put out. I mean, it's fairly new, and you see people, you know, manipulating sound and picture together and doing their. We've seen all these little demonstrations. People are learning this really fast. And you mentioned as far as the analysis of the AI, where you like asking it questions, and it's starting to have the ability to be almost personally therapeutic for us. When we talk about, hey, what's the best way, you know, as a, I don't know, as a public speaker or an influencer or a, you know, or a teacher, like how can I reach these kids, right? There's a model of, oh, the AI is going to know, they're going to personalize your experience. They're going to give you the answer. And so if we're going to become dependent on that answer, then you're 100% right. We're going to not be developing those skills on our own. We're going to be 100% dependent on AI telling us the answer. Forget therapists being out of work. It's you're going to check in about everything, relationship problems. You're going to check in about career problems, everything, financial problems. Everything's going to be AI solve this for me. So we just like driving on the road, like you said, I mean, everybody can relate to the driving. We still type in, we just have an instinct to do Google Maps or Apple or the maps from Apple, and you just listen to it because you know the way, but it's going to know it a little better. It's going to know if you need to go cut around a traffic jam. It's going to give you the ETA. You can always tell the people, oh, I know exactly the time I'll arrive. So I'm completely dependent. When that gets shut down, you can't wait, hold on. I got to just figure this out on my own. How do I do this? But on all levels, this is going to be impactful. And I think the biggest aha for me in that study wasn't that the people doing the AI were dumber about the thing that they used AI for. What got me was when they moved them back to the non-AI, they had inability to do the thing that they used to be able to do before the AI. And so that is the most concerning part. It's the brain rot element of it. We're getting dumber from it. So even if we say, you know, I don't want to do this anymore, now you're worse off. You can't just go back to where you were.
And maybe
you're now behind. You're now far behind where you started.
And maybe you could bounce back after you put in like a couple more months, maybe. But you know, maybe also the older you are, the harder it is, you know, to bounce back too. So you know, there's a lot of potential, you know, consequences. And to be honest with you, it scares me the most with the next generation, because a large percentage of them, from what I understand, you know, have been, you know, getting caught like using it and cheating on tests, and now they're having to implement rules in schools that prevent people from doing it. So, you know, it's not an issue that we're talking about the consequences, you know, of enough. Like you see people, you know, sounding the alarm on, you know, online a little bit, but it hasn't really like, you know, sunk into like everyday conversations as much, in my opinion. So yeah,
well,
you know, great.
I have a little tidbit story to tell that this just happened, and it's interesting how this went down. So you guys, we never covered this story, but I think you guys all heard about the breach of the passwords that went out. So everybody, there was like, I don't even remember how many. It was the largest breach. Did you hear about that, Jay? We just didn't have time to cover it on the show.
I believe so. I forget what it was that got hacked, but it was like
biggest hack ever, they're saying. It was Google, it was all these. So they're telling everybody change your passwords on everything. So we weren't able to cover it. It wasn't really a top censored news because it was everywhere. And then we just kind of missed the story. But if you guys missed the story, biggest hack happened. This is probably AI related. They're able to do this and get this information more than we've ever been. So it's being used against people. So everybody's scared. Everybody's petrified. They're getting these messages from all their little news outlets. Everybody's covering it, right? CNN, all of it, MSM, they're all doing it. And I have a friend here in Hollywood who said, I'm going to come to the rescue. I'm going to help people, because he's like kind of a tech guy. And he goes, you know what? And he showed me, he's like, hey, Matt, check this out. Because he has all these different people that, you know, he does their tech, and they're older, and they get scared when this happens. He goes, I did something. I just used an AI. Check this out. It's my voice. And he sent it to me. He goes, does this sound like me? I'm explaining to people what they can do to reset their password. And it's AI doing it. I go, dude, that does sound like you. It's kind of missing a human connection, but I think it's because you're not you still need to work on it. It's weird, but okay, good. It's good enough, right? Like they'll be comfortable hearing it if I send this to them. And I said to him, did it cross your mind that you're trying to help people who are petrified about an AI hack that happened? And the way you calm them down is you send them an AI of your voice telling them it's going to be okay without a human connection, but just follow the steps. Do you think there's at least some irony into that?
Yeah.
And I think he heard me. I think he goes, yeah, I didn't think of that. I go, so what are we doing? What are we doing here? So that I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah, that's sad, man, that people, you know, don't realize the importance of actual like interaction. And we haven't even spoken about the next level of this, but I'm sure you've seen, you know, news about sex robots being built. And when you put this technology into it, like one people don't realize is one thing most people realize relationships are hard work. Well, what happens if, you know, people can get that physical release, you know, without having to, you know, put in the work like of an actual relationship. Like if you're getting into arguments with your significant other, which is always going to happen in any healthy relationship from time to time, and you don't have that same motivation to stick it through. I mean, yeah, you know, like it's crazy to think about, you know, where this could be leading. So,
yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye on this story for you guys as we move closer and closer to the age of technocracy that we are finding ourselves in more and more every day.
Yeah.
Jay Scott, thanks for putting in some extra time with us today. A lot to go through here. Any last final thoughts of what we covered today, or anything else you want to say?
Yeah, just I'm sorry. Do you remember the name of the protester who was arrested by the Trump administration from Columbia University?
Muhammad Khalil.
Yes, Khalil. When he got out, he was on the streets protesting, the next day. And I want to see more energy like that in America. Right now, people don't realize the number of red lines that have been crossed over the past 2 weeks because we've become desensitized to what war is. But, just remember, Iran is allied with Iran and we're allied with Israel. So this is now two fronts. Don't wait on someone else to do it. Find a way to make a difference, no matter if it's simply sharing, this podcast and talking, like with your friends about what's going on, but find some way to get involved, something to be a part of. And one possible option for that is, going to WTP, which stands for We the People National.com, to take a look at some third-party options, because it's a growing organization and it's all about, decentralization and tackling corruption. So we'll speak about that more, but I'd encourage everyone out there to get involved, check out some of the positive things happening as you're also raising awareness about the dangers in the world. So crazy times, man. So appreciate you having me on as usual, Matt. See you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. Follow Jay on Twitter, JS Ascension. We'll see you next week, Jay. Thanks so much.
Later.